Greetings and welcome to Armored Core Reforged, the series where I take the preset ACs of the game and optimize them to the best of my abilities, preferably making them viable in PvP. The process will consist of me going over the original build, then I will go over the upgraded version and all the thought behind it. And then finally, me and a volunteer will do a final PvP test to see which version of the build is indeed superior. As well as after this video goes up, I will be making a community post where you guys can vote as to which preset will be the next featured on Reforged. But all that said, you have yourself a very good one, and enjoy. Greetings, welcome back to Reforged. Last episode we took a look at V.I. Freud, and in that video I asked y'all to give the Reforged a new name. And like usual, y'all did not disappoint with the fantastic names. I think the best of the bunch, and I'm sure many of you agree given the 15 likes, is Skeleton Key. Of course, being a key that can open all locks. A definite upgrade from Locksmith indeed. Once again, thank y'all for the names. I'm excited to see what y'all got for this AC, as in today's video we're taking a look at V.II Snail, which will be the last of the Vespers, so let's begin. Alrighty, and the Open Faith AC is an interesting one. It has shock-based weaponry, or stun-based weaponry. It has ranged FCS, or medium to long range FCS anyway, with a melee weapon, a lance, which is more or less a closer range. I suppose you could use it for mobility, as he has a very heavyweight appearance. But yeah, very interesting and kind of contradictory AC, as we have a lot of close range weapons, or at least weapons that work really well at close range, as well as a good booster for it, yet the FCS and playstyle that we've seen him use is more of a ranged, offensive, so very interesting indeed. For the primary weapons, we have the stun gun, a very light and fast-firing handgun that builds up a little status effect that causes a mini stagger similar to the actual stagger effect, in where the enemy will stop and take a bit of damage. That, of course, being the electric shock, which is built up through any weapon that inflicts stun. Next, we have the Laser Lance, a pretty alright melee, a little inconsistent when it comes to hitboxes and netcode and overall connection, but if it lands, it will land, doing high amounts of stagger, decent amount of damage, very comboable. A solid traversal tool for heavier weights, as it of course will carry you up around. Even if you miss a target, you're still flying around, dodging anything that's coming your way. For shoulder mounts, we have the Stun Needle Launcher. Similar to the stun gun, this also builds up electric shock, giving off the mini stun and damage increase. And it is a solid ranged weapon. The velocity is pretty quick, the fire rate is decent, the reload can take a little bit. The reload is 5 seconds, which is pretty mighty, as well as it is quite heavy and EN costly. Although its direct hit adjustment is quite high, mixing that with this normal attack powered impact, it can do quite the damage on direct hit. And then lastly, we have the vertical plasma missiles, which don't do a whole lot of damage and impact on their own, but because of their vertical nature and plasma nature of exploding on the enemy, kind of like an AoE type of a proxy det, they're very good for keeping the stagger meter up at all times. And for the frame parts, we have the 44A head, the 48 core, the 46A arms, and 42A legs. And with this current assortment of parts, we have 14,000 AP, 1,300 defenses, and 1,900 stability, which is incredibly durable. Although with only a boost speed of 250, which is very slow, and a quick boost of 260, which is also very slow. Evasiveness is definitely not this build's strong suit. For inner parts, for boosters, we have the Bristle Booster, which is an interesting booster. It's quite heavy. Its natural stats are not very great other than its quick boost reload, ideal weight, and assault boost speed. The assault boost is obviously very good on heavier weights, allowing them to cut the distance between more evasive builds. But yeah, still, we're not going to get that much speed. And for FCS, we have the VE21B, which is the best FCS for medium to long range tracking, which is interesting because most of our weapons are really good for more closer ranges. But I guess you would have to have this FCS to land the shot in story mode, which stuns us at the Ibis fight, all the good stuff. But man, is it really ineffective for his weapons. The stun gun is not good for range. The stun needle is okay for range, but not really. It's really dodgeable at range. And our lance, of course, is a melee weapon, and more or less a close range melee, so yeah, not great. And then lastly, for generator, we have the VE20C, which has an incredible amount of capacity as well as energy firearm spec, which of course boosts all energy-based weapons, although none of our weapons get boosted by it. Not a single one. And then lastly, for expansion, assault armor, another close range armament, despite our more ranged style as well as FCS. So very interesting, contradictory AC indeed. Alrighty, for playstyle, I guess getting your effective range of medium range versus the long range, so just outside of 130 meters. Fire off all you can, except for your needle, preferably. Build up a little stun with your handgun and missiles. Go for the melee, hopefully get the stun into needle, which is incredibly slow firing, oh my god. And of course, if your enemy is just distancing a lot, use your assault boost speed, which is 380 on a really heavy boy like this. Isn't that bad, but still is not super good. You'll hardly be outpacing most 370 kite builds with this type of speed, which is not very good indeed. OP. Yes, this is the original Snail's open faith. Let's take him into the forge.
これがレクイエムだ。
And here we are, Reforged. For the primary weapons, just took the stun gun and split it into dual stun bomb launcher therapists, which actually makes for a pretty damn good ranged weapon. As its tracking and all my testing doesn't really seem to scale with your actual FCS tracking. Obviously, it's better to be more locked on than not when you first ever fire it off, but when it fires out, it seems to follow its own type of tracking that's more or less independent from your FCS. I've tested it, and its accuracy was shitty FCS, good FCS, and it seems the same regardless. Which the tracking is pretty decent. It explodes on the enemy, much like Plasma in its AoE, and a kind of proxy det, so it's very hard to dodge. And it does some decent damage and quite a bit of static buildup, or electric shock, which is of course the mini stun. And it reloads very fast with a reload time of only 2 seconds. So overall, definitely the best ranged stun weapon, indubitably. For shield amounts, just upgraded the stun needle launcher to the laser cannon LCS, which is a little weaker in terms of base damage as well as direct hit, but is much faster and overall a lot more usable, as you can fire it off 4 times before overheating, will come back decently fast, and can actually scale with energy firearm spec. It is lighter and more EN, or less EN costly anyway. And then lastly, just changed out our close range melee for a ranged melee, and in my opinion, the best ranged melee, the Redshift Moonlight. With of course, it's both normal attack and charge attack, although the normal attack is very much goated. And funny enough, if you stagger the opponent and then hit them with one of the normal swipes, it actually extends the stagger similar to a Zimmerman or a punch. And since it is coral damage, it does ignore all defenses, as well as it can be boosted by melee spec. And for frame parts, the Virile Head, Mind Alpha Core, Bashio Arms, which of course have max melee spec for our weapon, and we don't need recoil control for our primaries, so that's always good. Very light, very high AP, all the cool stuff, and of course Mind Alpha Legs, these traditional Requiem frame parts. And with this current assortment, we now have 11,000 AP, 1,200 defenses, 1,800 stability with a 350 boost speed, 349, but basically 350, with a quick boost of 317. Now our quick boost speed isn't really too high, although it's our main natural boost speed that we're going to be relying on, as we're now a much more ranged kite-like build. For inner parts for boosters, we have the SPD, which has max thrust, allowing us to reach a speed near 350, decent overall stats, indubitably. Well, they find assault boost thrust and assault boost EN consumption, allowing us to assault boost at a pretty nice speed and for a long time. For FCS, just switching to the Walt, as it's nice to have decent tracking in all regards, even as we don't really need it for much other than maybe our Moonlight and of course our LCS kinda. And for generator, I'm running the Akushi, as it's very light, has good capacity and recharge. Alternatively, you could run the V.II again for the energy firearm spec, which of course will boost our LCS. Although we do lose out on quite a bit of speed, although we do gain some nice capacity and nice trade. As well as for another light generator, opposed to the Akushi, you could run the VP20C, which is a bit lighter, indubitably. And then lastly for expansion, Pulse Armor, as it is much more useful in more scenarios. Alright, and for playstyle, get at a medium to long range, mainly take to the skies, as we can break the necks of our opponents who are trying to chase us. Fire off your LCS and stun bomb launcher pretty much any time. Better the LCS whenever the enemy's just kind of charging in or standing still to fire off something, as firing off does make it stand still, which means it might get hit by a more devastating attack. But you can throw out your melee on direct hit or whenever really. But yeah, no, you pretty much just run away, kind of distance away from your opponent, shoot the stun bomb launchers whenever you want, as they reload hella fast. We have decent stagger, decent damage, and of course that mini stun, which is always good against an enemy who's trying to catch up to us constantly. And of course, whenever they take a break to stop, run out of energy or what have you, you can of course throw out the LCS and or the melee, and or both. Alrighty, and this is Reforged. My buddy Shattered will be piloting the original Snail. I will be piloting Reforged, and we shall battle to see if the upgrades are indeed worthy. Enjoy. I mean, that's what they did for fucking the last patch with these new maps. They imported like we fight Juggernaut, where you destroy the choppers, and you fight the Tetrapod NT, like in the very beginning. We have that map now.
Yeah, I mean that map also was an arena map where you fight like fucking what's his name, Candle Ring.
Yeah. Yar.
Like, give us the maps.
Heat. That would be heat.
Kind of like in my element.
Maybe a big one. Good God.
Can't miss. God, that energy on this thing is so weird.
Dear God. What do I have? Pulsar? Yeah, hell yeah.
Got like such slow ass energy on this thing. That's the main thing.
Oh,
Ow.
dude, it's such good.
It's nothing like kite. I can't do anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so weird. His FCS is
Yeah,
the
it's a
max
kite, it
long
can't
range
do
one. It's the
anything.
medium long range. Just so weird. Like, I get the inspiration for like long range when he has like that needle. Obviously, he snipes motherfuckers. He sniped us, but like needle launcher, I guess yeah. Well, needle launcher, yeah. Stun gun,
I do
not
feel like
really.
it should have
Melee.
a longer like range, so it makes like a heavy kind of long range sniper. That'd be a nice like utility for heavy builds.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Why do I even fire that? What's the point of that?
I don't know. Dear God.
That miss!
Nani? I drop into your embrace.
Oh, come on, the fuck game.
Wabadoo, get away from me!
God, this energy on this thing is so ass.
So good. They're pissed. Oh my God.
It sucks. Ah!
Oh my God, he did the scream, he did the yell, it's canon. Let's go. Alrighty, and that is it for this episode of Reforged. Thanks so much to Shadow for helping out with the PvP test. Links to Shadow to our projects will be in the description below, as usual. And of course, thank you all for watching. If y'all have a name suggestion for this Reforged variant of Open Faith, please do leave it in the comments below, and I will choose it in the next episode of Reforged, which, now that we finish off the chapter of the Vespers, it is time for, I suppose, the actual final entry in the chapter, and that is combining all that we've learned from the normal versions of the Vespers as well as Reforges, and creating a amalgamation of both for the ultimate Vespers, the Vesper or V0, indubitably Vesper Prime, similar to what we did with the Red Guns, and where I will create the ultimate Vesper using all the parts that are available from the Reforged variants. And I will invite Shatter to create the ultimate Vesper out of all the original Vesper parts. And then we'll do one last PvP test to end the Vesper chapter. But yeah, I'll have my Patreon as well linked in the description if you want to support me over there. I would highly, highly appreciate it, indubitably. But yes, all said, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and peace.